Hi, hello. Welcome to my first quarterly reading update of 2025. We're going to talk about stats, favourite books, worst books, and goals moving forward in the rest of the year. If you're new here, I'm Natalie. I upload a minimum of once a week, cozy reading blogs, sit down videos like this, reading stats, reading challenges. So if you don't already, please hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you over here. Without further ado, let's just get straight into the stats. I've pulled up my Goodreads and I've got my Fable here as well. I love Fable because it gives you quarterly summaries of the type of reading that you've been doing. So I'll insert mine here and I'll just read it to you now. Story Explorer. Your bookshelf includes diverse histories, resilient journeys and eerie lore. Through these inspiring stories, you've acquired the art of adaptation, a powerful skill in our modern world. I don't really know what that means. I mean, I get it, but the art of adaptation, me being able to adapt. Oh, okay, yeah, different genres, maybe. So far this quarter, I have read 44 books, which equates to 15,752 pages. That sounds like a lot. I've had one 1-star read, one 2-star read, 8 3-star reads. I've had 6 5-star reads, but one of them is a reread and I know it's already a favourite. So I'm going to class that as 5 5-star reads in 3 months. I don't think that's too bad. My most read genres surprised me actually, because I actually only read 7 horror books. So it'd be interesting to see how many of those horror books were in my 5-star reads. I read 9 romance books. So I actually read more romance than horror, but I don't know how correct that is, because I think sometimes things are classed as romance because they have a romantic aspect to them, when in fact they are horror, because you can't set the genres, can you, yourself on Fable? So we'll go with it for now. 11 sci-fi books, that tracks. 13 literary fiction, that tracks, I would have expected to see that. And 16 fantasy books. So average rating is a 3.8. So if you have, as you can see, the vast majority of my books get 4 stars. And that's because I do feel like I know my reading taste quite well. I can usually gauge what books are going to either be okay or really enjoy it. Obviously, there has been a few misses, unfortunately. I think the 3.8 rating is quite good. And similar to my biannual wrap-up, the most read authors, Becky Chambers, John Gwynne, because I've read their series, Ryan Carhill, again, I started the Of Blood and Fire series. Tomi Adeyemi, because I read her series, and Emily St. John Mandel, because her books are basically like crack for me now. Let's have a look at the 5 stars. What have we got? Once There Were Wolves by Charlotte McConaughey. Oh, this book, I still think about it all the time. So it's a literary fiction, but all of her books have like a climate, nature theme. And this one's no different. It's about 2 sisters who relocate to Scotland and are trying to reintroduce wolves into the wild. But there is more to it. There is a bit of a romance subplot and definitely a thriller-esque theme going through it. I loved it. It was so good. The other 5-star, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I've already spoken about most of these books in my biannual reading wrap-up. So if you do want a full review on those, I will put it in the description so you can go and check it out if you want to. The Very Secret Society of Regular Witches is a reread, so I'm not going to count it in these stats. Notes on an Execution. A full review for that book is actually on a reading vlog, which I will link again in the description below so you can check it out if you want. Black Girl Call Home. It is one of the best poetry collections I have ever read. I listened to it via audio and it's actually narrated by the author and it is so powerful. I had goosebumps the whole time I was reading it. It's about the experience of women, in particular black women, and I just thought it was so powerful. Everybody should read this book. Everybody. Let's have a look to see what genres were in the 5 stars. So we've got literary fiction 1, another literary fiction 2, 1 horror, The Devil and Mrs. Davenport, Notes on an Execution. I'd say that comes under literary fiction. It's thriller-esque as well. 3 for literary fiction, 1 for horror and 1 poetry. literary fiction for the win so far this year. Let's have a look at my 4 stars, because some of them were 4.5 stars. They were so close to being 5-star. The Legacy of Orisha, which is The Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, that was a 4-star. So was the second book. And all of John Gwyn's series, the Bloodsworn Saga, they were all 4 stars. Of Blood and Fire, that was a 4.5 star. I absolutely loved it. I initially gave it 5 stars, but I haven't really thought about it much since I finished it. So it's not like an all-time favourite. So I can't give it 5 stars, but it was very close. Same again for the rest of the series. The Sea of Tranquility, I loved it. That was a 4.5, but I think that was actually more of a 4.75, maybe 5-star. I just loved it so much. Wandering Souls, that was literary fiction again. It's an immigrant story about children who leave Vietnam. They have to go to a refugee camp in Hong Kong and then settle into the UK. It was powerful, it was beautiful, highly recommend. That was a 4-star. Never Let Me Go. That shouldn't be in there. I'm going to move that. That was a 3.5. Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro was originally on the 4-star tier, but I'm moving it down. That was a 3.5. That wasn't a 4-star. So my rating system, I probably should have led with that. 1 star, I absolutely hated it, or I DNF'd it quite far in, past the 50% mark. 2 star, I didn't really like it. It wasn't problematic and I didn't hate it, but I didn't enjoy the experience. 3 star is I liked it, it was fine, I'd recommend it, no major issues, but I just didn't love it. 4 star, loved it, would recommend it quite broadly, but it didn't give me the 5-star feeling. 5 star is I want to make this book my entire personality. I loved it so much. It's going on the favourite shelves. I have to own the physical copy. Yeah, you get the gist. The Travelling Cat Chronicles. This one actually made me cry. That one can stay there in the 4 stars. Jane Eyre. Do you know what? The performance by Thandie Newton made that into a 4-star read for me. It was just so good. I want to read everything that she's narrated now. What else we got? Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, the first one in the Wayfarer series. I originally actually gave that 5 stars, but I've since bumped it down as it's not an all-time favourite. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I really love it. But there are other Becky Chambers that I prefer. Speaking of Becky Chambers, A Prayer for the Crown Shire. This one's a 4.5, almost a 5-star. I loved it so much. And A Closed and Common Orbit. Oh God, this is the one. I did the Bionic wrap-up, I kept getting them confused. So Closed and Common Orbit is the one about AI that I made the comparison between Annie-Bot and this one, saying how much better this one was and how thought-provoking it was, and nuanced and interesting. So if you're looking for an AI book, definitely read that one. You don't have to read them all in order, but you get the most benefit out of it if you do. Record of a Spaceborne Few. Yeah, that was another 4-star. That's part of the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers as well. Margot's Got Money Troubles. Love this book. This is literary fiction. It's basically about a girl who is trying to make a living as a waitress. She can't, so she sets up an OF account to support her and her child, and it all sort of just unravels from there. But it's a really surprisingly thoughtful and enjoyable read. A romance, Falls from Grace. Yeah, loved it. Loved this book. It was everything that I needed. It was cozy. It was fun. There's a little bit of spice. I enjoyed the banter between the characters. And I really enjoyed Ruby Landis' writing. And she's an indie author as well, which we love to see. Final Empire, the first book in the Mistborn series. Had a good time. Really liked it. Can definitely recognise why it's got such a huge fandom. Daisy Hates. Again, loved it, had a great time. Wake Up and Open Your Eyes. I've put this as a 4-star, but I think I actually bumped it down to a 3.5. So I'm going to change that on here. It wasn't quite a 4-star for me. I really liked it. I had a great time with it. I think the messaging behind it is so funny. It is definitely one of those social commentary horrors where it's really in your face. And I appreciate what he was trying to do here. It was really gory. And some of it was so disgusting. And the imagery in my head, I don't think will ever leave. But yeah, it's great. I'll definitely recommend it. But it's more of a 3.5 than a 4-star for me. James by Purcell Everett. Oh, see, this one is like right at the top of the 4 stars. This is like a 4.75, almost a 5-star. So engrossing. Such an easy read. His storytelling just flowed. I love Jim or James from Huckleberry Finn. Finally got to tell his side of the story and got to be a character of his own rather than just a side character. I don't think I've ever actually read Huckleberry Finn. Maybe when I was in school, but I don't really plan on doing so, and I don't think you need to appreciate the book. Oh, how high we go in the dark. Oh my god. This book took me so long to read. I found it so triggering. I had actually just experienced some loss in my family, so I wasn't in the best headspace, and I think you definitely need to be to read this book. So I find, I don't want to make any sweeping statements, but I have found with quite a lot of Japanese literary fiction that it tends to follow obviously not all, but tends to follow a similar format, which I love, which it feels like the book is a collection of short stories all written by the same author, and you're following different characters and the storylines sort of merge at different points. I think it was a 4 or 4.5. It was really impactful and it felt like it spanned over a huge period of time. And when I first picked it up, I was so intrigued. Basically, there's like a disease that's trapped in the permafrost, and then due to climate change, obviously the ice caps are melting, this disease then makes its way out into humanity, and there's just so many storylines in here where I was like, ugh. There's one about a pig, which was so sad. There's another one, basically there's an amusement park where kids who have this disease or virus, it's incurable, by the way, like at this point in time there is no cure, you literally get it and you're gonna die, and these kids basically go to this theme park to aid them in that, and it was so hard to read, but it was absolutely brilliant. And the ending I actually didn't see coming. I have seen people say that you have to sort of suspend your disbelief a little bit. I loved the ending. I thought it was great. It was such a well-rounded story. I don't know why I didn't give it a 5-star. I think it's because I just found it so difficult to read. There were parts actually where I did feel a bit bored, where there was like globes, orbs. That's quite speculative, but I kind of think I understand what that was. Stories are so impactful, but by the love of God, make sure you check trigger warnings. Every Heart's a Doorway, the first book in the Wayward Children series. Do you know what, right? I thought that this book was going to be a cosy YA fairy story about kids that go through doors. It is not that. It is, imagine in all of the fairy stories, all of the fantasy stories where kids go through into other realms, and then what actually happens to them when they come back, because they're not going to be normal. They're not just going to go back to their everyday lives, are they? Like, they're going to be transformed in some way or another. And that's what this book explores. And it was so morbid and dark, and I loved it so much. This was a 4.5 star for me. I've actually got the first 3 books in the series, and I plan on reading the whole thing. It's not cozy. And it's not really a feel-good book. It's very strange and it's very dark, and I loved it. The Wedding People. The Wedding People. This was such a great read by Alison Ispatch. I knew it wasn't going to be like a fluffy, light-hearted read. I knew from hearing other people's reviews that it was dark, and it was my kind of dark. It was such an introspective read about a woman who's in a terrible place in her life, and how certain things happen. Obviously, I don't want to spoil anything. I don't know what's on the blurb, actually. She goes to this hotel where a wedding's happening. She doesn't know anyone in the wedding. She calls them the Wedding People. And her observations are actually very funny. She gets to know certain people within the wedding. It's touching and it's surprising and it's funny how these interactions change the course of our main character's life. I loved it. It was so good. The only reason why it didn't get a 5-star for me is because I wasn't massively keen on the ending. I feel like it could have gone in a different direction, and that would have made it a 5-star life-changing book. However, it was so close. I think it was a 4.75. It was such a good time, so surprisingly thoughtful, and the writing was stunning. Loved it. The Fire Next Time. This was another very high 4-star, 4.5 star. The Fire Next Time by James Baldwin. You could literally read this in one sitting. I read it in 2 because I wanted to take time, really absorb what it was that I was reading. So it was written in the course of 2 letters. The first letter is to his nephew, explaining his experience of the world and kind of what he can expect growing up in America and the changes that need to happen. And then the second letter, it was written 100 years after emancipation, and it's about his thoughts and feelings on how America can never really be free until the discrimination and racism is put to bed. I'm not doing this justice at all. I think it should be mandatory reading. It's absolutely fantastic, and his thoughts and feelings just feel so relevant despite this book being published. When was this published? In 1963. You can see why this book is recommended time and time again, why it's so important for us to read. Yeah, just read it. So yeah, they're all the 4-star, 4.5, 4.75 star reads. Quickly go through the 3-star reads, which means that I thought they were okay. I enjoyed them. This is not a 3-star read. I've put Children of Anguish and Anarchy, which is the third book in The Legacy of Orisha by Tony Adeyemi, and I really did not like this book, so I think I actually changed this rating. I haven't really been keeping up with Goodreads. I've really been using Fable more, to be honest, but I'm changing that to a 2.5 because I didn't really have a great time with it. Never Let Me Go, speculative. I don't want to say sci-fi because I think that's really misleading. It's definitely a literary fiction dystopian about some kids in a school. And that's all I'll tell you because that's all I knew going in. And that's what you know for quite a chunk of the book. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I'm thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. That was a 3.5 or a 3-star for me. I think other books have done what Ian Reid did in this book better, but there was nothing wrong with it. It was okay. I'd recommend it. Wake Up and Open Your Eyes, already been through that. The Favourites by Lainey Fargo, I gave that a 3.5. It wasn't earth-shatteringly good for me. I had a good time, but it didn't change my life and it just wasn't that deep. The Night Guest, this was so weird, and the ending gave us no answers. I don't mind an ambiguous ending, but I don't love it. The Will of the Many was so freaking confusing and wordy. It did not need to be this long. I think I should probably even make it a 2-star. I didn't really like it, and I was quite shocked because so many people who love the same books I love giving this 5-star, saying it's one of their most favourite books of the year, and I just didn't get the hype. I was really bored. The Hacienda, I read that as part of a vlog. Gothic Haunted House Story, it was fun. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. I enjoyed the beginning of it more than the end, and that's because I just don't think I really like the whimsy of fairy and fae, which is what this book really leans into come towards the end. I mean, funny enough, it's called the Encyclopedia of Fairies, but it reminds me of, what's that Holly Black book? The Cruel Prince. I just looked it up. The Cruel Prince. I think if you like The Cruel Prince, you will love Encyclopedia of Fairies, and vice versa. If you didn't like the whimsy and the description of the different fairy courts and things like that, and just the whole fairy tale-esque type of story, I don't think you'll love Encyclopedia of Fairies. I liked it, but I just didn't love it. I think I gave it 3.5 stars in the end, or maybe 3 stars. Anything fairy tale-esque I don't really like. So I think you would enjoy Encyclopedia of Fairies if you enjoyed Nettle and Bone and Cruel Prince, both of which I didn't. And the last one in the 3-star category is Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid. I will be doing full reviews on these books, by the way, when it comes to my next biannual reading wrap-up. So, quick summary: a black girl who's hired by a white family to babysit their child explores the dynamics of Amira's relationship with all of the people in her life. I thought it was really clever, really well written, and a lot of the messaging is in what's not said. And I really appreciate a book like that makes you think. I originally gave it 3.5 stars, but I upped it to 3.75 stars because it's one of those books that has a lasting impact and leaves you thinking about things after you finished it. So yeah, I would actually highly recommend that one. Moving on to the 2 stars, already spoken about The Legacy of Orisha. William by Mason Coyle. What was this? I didn't have a good time, really. It's very strange. and it's again to do with AI. It is a quick little novella, but it's a sign that you're not enjoying a novella if it feels like a full-length novel. It felt repetitive, even though there were so few pages. I gave this 2.5 stars, and the extra 5 stars was earned from the ending because I didn't see it coming. Maybe it was obvious, probably was to a lot of people, but it wasn't to me. And the 1 star, which I have already spoken about in my last biannual reading wrap up, is Annie Bot by Sierra Greer. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix, which I have just finished, which will be going at the very top half. I haven't fully decided on my rating for that, but I will decide in a reading vlog. My favourite book of the year so far is Black Girl Call Home by Jasmine Mans, which is a poetry collection, but out of fiction, Station 11. Yeah, I think that's my favourite book. And my least favourite book, you don't even need me to say. Let me know what your favourite book of this quarter has been so far, and also what your least favourite book is. Having a look at the year things were published to see how many new releases I'm reading, and I'm pleased to say that I am keeping up with new releases probably more than I have done in previous years, which is always nice to see. But it also gives me the oldest publication date. So Jane Eyre, why do I keep saying ear? Jane Eyre, performed by Thandie Newton. I feel like that's very important to say because she was incredible. That was actually published in 1847, which is wild because it does not read like it's hundreds of years old. And the second oldest publication date, The Fire Next Time, which was published in 1963. New releases, I read The Favourites by Lainey Fargo. That was released this year. Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod. That was released this year, as was Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. Falls from Grace, William, The Wedding People, The Fury of the Gods, the third book in the Legends of Orisha series, Annie Bot, Devil and Mrs Davenport, Margot's Got Money Trouble, were all released last year. Keeping up with the times, which is good to hear. How do we summarise it? Let's summarise it. Let's talk about goals for the second quarter. Continue reading new releases, of which I feel like I am quite on top of. I've got some arcs that I need to read, that I want to read. I've also ordered some new releases. Charlotte McConaughey's new release. I've got The Lamb sitting there. Augustina Bastarrica's new book is on its way as well, The Unworthy. So I feel like I feel like that goal is really achievable. Also want to read some more non-fiction. I have got some non-fiction ready to go on Libby at the moment. There's one about polar bears. It's called like The Loneliest Polar Bear or something like that, but yeah. But I do want to read some more cli-fi books as well, climate literary fiction, which I feel that Emily St. John Mandel, Becky Chambers and Charlotte McConaughey all kind of fall into that category. So if you know of any other authors that write similarly, let me know because I will read it immediately. Do you have any bookish goals moving into the next quarter? Reading new releases, finding some cli-fi authors and reading non-fiction. Yeah, I think they're achievable. Let me know if you enjoyed this quarterly reading wrap up and if it's something that you would like to see me continue, and I'll see you soon for the next one soon. Bye.